right, we got Roger Stone back in. I'm so glad that you're feeling better. You look good. You're healthy. How you feeling, Roger?
Well, as you know, I'm bouncing back from the red Chinese virus. I think people need to understand this. This was a bioweapon created with U.S. tax dollars by Dr. Anthony Fauci. He has lied about that under oath to Congress. There's now additional proof recently released by Project Veritas, U.S. Army documents that prove definitively that he's lied to Congress. Now, lying to Congress is what I was arrested for. Dr. Fauci has lied to Congress. He is now going down as a mass murderer. Mao, Hitler, Mao Zedong, Hitler, Stalin, and yes, Dr. Anthony Fauci. If you haven't read it, Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s book, The Real Anthony Fauci, will curl your ears. I've had it up to here with Tony Fauci. This little midget has got to go. And I, like the average person, I just kind of laugh this, oh, it's the flu. It's no big deal. No, it's a very big deal. I've been through it. If I had not been treated with ivermectin, if I had not used massive doses of vitamin C, D, zinc, quercetin, and a number of other all-natural substances, I really doubt that I'd be here with you today. The best part of this was the difficulty in getting some of these drugs. So I really there was no pharmacy here in Florida willing to fill this perfectly legal prescription. And finally, a farmer out in Iowa sent me a tube for horses that's used as a dewormer. And when I told my doctor, he said, take it immediately. That's the purest and the best form. He said, let me guess. Is it the apple flavor? As a matter of fact, it was. I have to tell you, Tommy, within 4 hours, I began to feel better. Yet today I read about a doctor in the state of Maine who's had his medical license suspended because he had the audacity to prescribe for one of his patients who had coronavirus.
Well, they're also going after Dr. McConnell. He's in debt, I think, $200,000 in legal fees. They're suing him because he went on Joe Rogan and basically said what you said. He said, look at Bangladesh, look at Sweden. They have it there. Look at African countries. They have it there for parasites, naturally. They got parasites all over the place. And because he stated all this, he is one of many that are being sued just for telling the truth. Then you have Dr. Malone that came on, who's developed more vaccines than anybody on the planet. And for him, in my opinion, to come out of his cave, and that's what those guys do. They live in a cave. You never see them.
They're scientists. They're real scientists.
They don't want to
have an ideology.
No.
They're just interested in truth.
Right. And with him, he's so frustrated that he's not getting the right numbers. And himself was the first one to look at this situation in 17 or 18. And he actually went by the information that your friend Tony gave him, or, Tony was a part of giving it to him. So now he's developing this with that information, and he's starting to see one thing after another that isn't adding up. But it's early, so he doesn't know. So he ends up taking the V, because he doesn't know. Remember, this is the guy developing it, but he's basing this on the numbers he's getting. At the time in 18, he wasn't aware completely that, Pfizer's behind this and Merck is behind this. And it's all, Pfizer's doing their own case studies. And then the people that are overlooking the case studies is people from Pfizer overlooking the case studies.
The whole thing is ridiculous.
And that's just off the top of my head.
It's like there's a crooked FBI agent. So the FBI investigated and they found out he wasn't crooked. Who would believe them?
Right.
It's like this fellow, Ray Epps, who is very clearly an FBI informant, provocateur. He's seen on film on January 5th and 6th calling on people to break in the building. But Politico assures us that their fact checkers tell us he's not an FBI plant. Politico. I wouldn't wipe my ass with Politico. These people, that the truth is not in them. They're drug addicts. They're reprobates. They're children. They're cowards. But what they really are professional liars. They lie for a living. CNN says, stop right there. Anything CNN says is false, inaccurate, untrue. You can shut them down really quickly. You know how? Just turn off the TV sets in every airport because there's no real people watching. None.
Well, it's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. And on top of all that, again, you have these guys coming out of the woodwork, and it doesn't even stop with the doctors. You have civil litigation guys coming out, going on podcasts, again, that you would never see, like the top civil litigations with Pfizer, Merck, Bayer, that they can't even really talk because of non-disclosures. But again, they're coming out of the woodwork because it's that bad. And to see these guys going on podcasts and coming out, that alone tells you how fucked up it is.
Well, but the important thing to remember is that the U.S. government, through the FDA, granted them essential legal immunity. Yeah. You can't sue them. They don't have any liability. So grandma takes the COVID-19 vaccination and 4 hours later she dies of a heart attack. They can't be held responsible. They have no legal liability whatsoever. That alone should tell you that this isn't safe. No clinical trials, no legal liability. But you need a booster. Stop again.
How many?
A vaccination. No. A vaccination, by definition, a vaccination is supposed to prevent your infection by a virus. Therefore, if you have been vaccinated, it should be impossible for you to contract the virus. They say, oh, well, you need the booster. Well, why would you need a booster? If it's a vaccination, then you should be immune from infection. So here's my point, and here's my real central message today, and I hope people will listen to it. If you're a liberal or a Democrat or a socialist or a communist or an atheist, please go out and get the COVID-19 vaccination as soon as you possibly can. And then don't even wait. Get the booster as soon as you can. And if they announce another 8 boosters, get those boosters as quickly as you can. Please, liberals, Democrats, help yourself. For those Americans who want to think for yourselves and want to think for your children, make your own choice. Don't get bullied in this propaganda game. But if you're a Democrat, I strongly hope you'll take it today, immediately. Let me know when your funeral is.
And you know, this reminds me of a case I had read. So Pfizer had come out with an arthritis drug, okay? Well, we can even go further. They made Oxycontin. They told all the PCPs and the doctors, hey, it lasts 12 hours, it's not addictive, this, that, the other. Long story short, what happens? It doesn't last 12 hours. It's extremely addictive, and you can die. So what happens? Pfizer has to go to court. They sue. They pay $9 billion, go walk away. Anyone else on this planet with that would have 17 million felonies and be in jail. Am I right or wrong?
No, I think you're exactly right.
And that's just Pfizer. I'm not picking them. I mean, that's all of them.
I think we both understand this whole thing is really about money.
Yes.
The contract for the U.S. military for the initial COVID-19 vaccination is a $9 billion contract. It also allows them to muster out those men and women who are in our armed services who refuse to take the order to take the vaccination because they answer to the U.S. Constitution, not to feeble Joe Biden, a man who's so out of it, he can't even control his own bowels. Let me ask you a question. Do you think when President John F. Kennedy went to Vienna to meet with Nikita Khrushchev to lessen tensions in the world, do you think he shit his pants?
No.
Okay. So when Richard Nixon was working out the fine points of satellite, I should say nuclear deterrent satellite limitation, a nuclear, try to use the right word here, his famous nuclear deterrent agreement with Brezhnev. Do you think he, crapped his pantaloons?
I don't think Nixon flinched at anything, personally.
So do you think when Jimmy Carter was at Camp David, working out the Camp David Accords with Anwar Sadat and Menachem Begin, do you think he crapped his drawers?
I would have to say no on that one, too.
So when President Donald Trump met with the Queen of England. Do you think he dropped a deuce? What do you think?
No.
Well, let me tell you something. When Joe Biden met with the Pope, he shit his pants, and now the entire country is shitting a brick.
Yeah. And Trump went and met with Kim Jong-un after he called him Rocket Man.
I mean, look.
But that's how you get those leaders to respect it.
Here's how you know this is true. If you look very carefully, they released photographs of Joe Biden before and after his meeting with the Pope. He's wearing the same suit jacket in both pictures. But in one of the pictures, the suit pants color doesn't match the jacket.
Oh,
that's because the president of the United States humiliated our country by soiling his pants. How do I know that he shit his pants? I'll tell you. A Secret Service agent told me that the drug that they're using to keep him alert has a side effect of violent diarrhea. This is your president, man. Do you think Putin's afraid of him? You think Putin was shaking over their recent meeting? Here's my prediction. They will roll into Ukraine and take Crimea like that, and Joe Biden will do nothing. Nothing.
I think Putin, he's got that Kool-Aid smile. You know, the kids, when they get the Kool-Aid smile, he's got it from here to here right now. So does China. So does all the other ones.
Well, in the case of Putin, you know, I don't know. Joe says we're going to put sanctions on him. Putin's got to be rolling on the ground. Sanctions.
You know he is.
They're going to do nothing. We're taking it. They will take it.
I know.
By the way, the majority of people in Crimea do speak Russian, and not Ukrainian, just as you know. And there have been plebiscites there. I cannot speak as to how honest those votes have been, but the people did overwhelmingly vote to leave Ukraine and join Russia. Now, the leftists at Media Matters for America say, there you go, Stone is making excuses for Putin. No, I'm just stating facts. Those are just the facts. Here are the facts. Putin will make a buffoon out of Joe Biden in Ukraine, just as they made fools out of us in Afghanistan. $8 billion, pardon me, I think I have this wrong, $86 billion worth of military equipment. This makes the government of Afghanistan the fourth best equipped military on the face of the planet. Why, if you were leaving, and by the way, I don't necessarily believe that withdrawing our troops from the Middle East was a bad thing. I think it was the right thing to do. The president who started doing it, of course, was Donald Trump. But you use your sophisticated military hardware, your drones and your drone capability. If we can hit a specific terrorist at his dinner table from a satellite, then we can take out all this material very easily. Instead, we left it there because the generals and Joe want to
equip them.
To equip them. So when the president says General Milley's an idiot, no, Mr. President, he's not an idiot. He's a traitor, not an idiot.
And a smart traitor.
Well, so far he's gotten away with it.
He's winning.
Ultimately, General Milley should stand trial for treason.
This podcast is brought to you by StoneColdTruth.com. That's StoneColdTruth.com. Personally hand-signed presidential pardons, premium cotton tees for men and women, signed books such as the New York Times bestseller, Stone's Rules. Also, another New York Times bestseller, The Man Who Killed Kennedy, only signed when purchased at StoneColdTruth.com. Please take a second and check out StoneDefenseFund.com. Have you ever been looking for your AirPods or they keep breaking? Check out RogerStone.com. Pick up a wide variety of AirPod case covers, coffee mugs, men and women tank tops, sweatshirts, and more. That's RogerStone.com. But you know that will never happen.
Well, we don't know. I honestly know as someone involved in 11 presidential elections who's steeped in a democratic system, I think we're heading for a shooting civil war between Americans. That's where I fear we're heading. I pray to God that I'm wrong, but I do know who's armed and ready.
How far do you think that if that were to happen, what kind of time frame are you seeing that?
Well, it's impossible to say. Here's what I know is the overall strength of our military has been allowed to atrophy to the point that the ruling junta now, that's illegitimate, the illegitimate government now in place, would have to count on the individual state National Guards to fire on their neighbors. So will members of the Florida National Guard fire on their next door neighbors, or will they not? It's a question I can't answer. There's not enough of a large standing army to put down an insurrection. If that's what it was, they would, of course, be calling it a revolution. This government's not legitimate. I don't advocate violence. I'd like to see us win an election. I'd like to see us turn this around in an election. But if a point comes where they drag children out of their homes to try to forcibly inoculate them, or if they choose to try to take the constitutionally guaranteed ownership of firearms away from people, well, you're sitting on a powder keg. It would be a horrific thing for our democracy. I pray against it every day. I pray for peace, but it is the war state. It is the deep state. It is the authoritarian government headed by the puppet Joe Biden, who he's demented. He seems to be confused, and we know for a fact that he's incontinent.
I want to go back to the Afghanistan thing real quick because I had a big conversation with Tig about it. Now, they said 30 days to get out of there. Then they came back and they said 2 weeks. Then they came back and they said 72 hours. Now, why such a rush? And I mean, I know they got most out in that time, but that's insane to say, look, in 72 hours, make all this happen. When you give them a month and then 2 weeks and then 72 hours. And I think it was originally 3 months, then a month, then 2 weeks and 72 hours.
I think the answer lies in the fact that the Afghanis are taking their cues from what's going on around them. So when we unilaterally just ended the sanctions against the Iranians, and the Iranians' immediate response was to begin raining Israel with missiles again, when the North Koreans started up their nuclear weapons development program, when the Chinese began harassing American-flagged ships in the South China Sea, when Putin began moving his troops along the border of Crimea, do you not think the Afghanis saw this and said, Joe Biden's weak. You can do anything you want to this guy. Let's tell him he's got 72 hours to get out of town. This is exactly what they did. Weakness breeds weakness. This administration exudes weakness. And people say to me, oh, wouldn't it be terrible if the president passed away or if he had to be removed under the 25th Amendment? And then we'd have the vice president, Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris, like Joe Biden, is running nothing other than perhaps her mouth. And that mouth's had a lot of experience, but we're not going to go there. She's not running the country. They'd keep her in place as a puppet like they do now. But I do know that Ron Klain, who runs domestic policy for the Biden administration, and Susan Rice, who, by the way, is among those who unmasked me and others, and therefore should be sitting in a federal penitentiary right now, is running foreign policy. They go to the Obama compound in the Calorama section of D.C. about 7 every morning for a Skype call or a Zoom call with the real president of the United States.
And who would that be?
Barack Hussein Obama. He is calling the shots. She has no authority. Kamala Harris, she has no authority. Joe Biden has no authority. Joe Biden is being locked in a room and fed gruel. That's speculation, but I've been around the block. I know how this works.
You have. How many? 11?
11 national presidential campaigns.
Now, where do you think the Clintons' position is in this? Because you just said Obama. So where are the Clintons playing their role? Because they got to be in this somewhere.
Well, we have to remember the Clintons would steal a hot stove. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. Where are they at?
Hillary Clinton is a mean-spirited, foul-mouthed, short-tempered kleptocrat who would steal anything that isn't nailed down.
Roger, she looks like she's gearing up to run.
She is. She's gearing up to grab opportunity. So, in other words, urge Biden to do something. For example, let's stop our gas and oil production in the United States and start buying again from Russia and from OPEC. Solid advice from the Clintons. Then when the gas prices get so high that Joe's unpopular, she then says, oh, I should replace Joe because of Joe's disastrous energy policies, the policies that I urged on him. This woman, you can smell the sulfur from here. Here's the good news. She will never be president. Never. Under any circumstances. If Donald J. Trump deserves credit for nothing else, the one single greatest thing he did was keep that witch out of the White House.
And he did. Now, what do you think about Michelle Obama running? There's a lot of talk about that, and she's got a lot of people behind her.
I have always thought that she would be a very strong candidate for the Democrats. The Obama years are the high watermark in terms of the popularity of the Democratic Party. What you see happening today is really extraordinary. For the first time in history, Hispanic voters in the United States are splitting 50-50 between Democrats and Republicans.
What is it usually?
It tended to be closer to 80-20.
Wow.
With the rest having no decision. The best it ever got to be was, 70-30.
That's a hell of a change.
It's an extraordinary change. I think it has to do with the Biden economy, the high gas prices, the manipulated food shortages. I'm sorry, this is the richest, most prosperous country on the face of the earth. Do you really believe we have a shortage of chicken wings? Do you think there's a shortage of chicken wings in this country?
I just thought they were on those ships.
Yeah, right.
So tell me where, because I can't get fucking Diet Sprite. I can't get fucking Monster Zeros.
It's all manipulated bullshit. It's being done on purpose. It is to create an atmosphere. There are no food shortages. There are no transportation problems. Secretary of Transportation butt plug or whatever his name is. He was so busy on his honeymoon or with his newly adopted child while people are going hungry. There's something wrong about that. So very wrong.
So what's behind the food shortage? If the food isn't on
simple manipulation. Just think a moment. Did we have any of these problems when Donald Trump was?
No.
Was there even discussion of it?
No, there wasn't even any of these problems when Obama was.
Was there even speculation? Oh my God, maybe this is coming.
No.
This is all being manipulated. It is to create an atmosphere. Their fondest wish, and don't think that this is just a joke and couldn't happen, is they'd like to cancel the next election for national security reasons because they know they're going to lose.
Do you think they'll build it up to, you just basically said they'll do everything they can to build to that point.
I think the problem is that the smallpox pandemic, which I think is
elaborate on that you were saying.
Why is the government loading up suddenly on massive doses of that big? Why would you do that?
And they definitely are.
Unless you knew. The doctors who I speak to tell me that Omicron, which is no day at the beach, means it's the end of the coronavirus cycle. And therefore, we can't use that to scare people. So we're going to need a new disease to scare people. My guess, I pray I'm wrong, is smallpox. We have to cancel the election, or nobody can vote in person because it's too dangerous. So you can only mail in your votes.
And they'll wait, right? They'll time it just like they did with the other one.
Right.
I mean, couldn't that timing just be
and then we'll see if the American people will stand for that.
Now, you got the Omni. That's what they diagnosed you with.
Yep.
And I was actually talking to you when you were on your way to the hospital, and you passed out in the car.
No, I came very close. I must tell you, I was being driven, and I was getting very, very lightheaded. That was the only brief time in which I had a fever. Unfortunately, or should say fortunately for me, but unfortunately for most Americans, I did have access to doctors who do have access to both. And those, I think, do work better with a heavy chaser of vitamins. Vitamins alone, even though some of these vitamins, like vitamin D or quercetin, mimic ivermectin in many ways, I don't think it's enough. I think you need to stay with it. This is not something that is gone in a day. So while it's fair to say that I began to feel better within hours, I didn't begin to feel well with hours. Put it another way. If 6 days go by and I don't have an ice cold vodka martini,
There's something wrong.
very definitely wrong.
I was just about to say, what was the first thing you noticed that something is really wrong? Is that the first thing you noticed?
The first thing I noticed was I got very tired. The second thing I noticed was I had no appetite.
Really?
In fact, food actually made me slightly nauseous. So I got up. I made some oatmeal. I thought I was hungry, but I couldn't keep it down.
But just nausea or like that gaggy feeling?
Just immediately nauseous, and no appetite for food, no hunger for food, which is out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
Then the night sweats. That's always great to wake up in a nice cold pool of sweat.
Yeah.
And a terrible cough, excess mucus dripping back of my throat, causing a cough, and the cough, I'm told by the doctors, there it is, will linger.
Good timing.
It's nothing to fool around
No,
with.
I'm just fucking with it. So the first sign was, the sweats, you were tired. No, you said little to no fever though, huh?
No, I think I was more fortunate. Now, Enrique Alejandro, the documentary filmmaker who I work with, he had a fever of 104.
Ooh.
He had a fever of 102, 103, and 104. There's actually videos of us pouring ice cold buckets of ice water on him to try to bring his fever down.
Yeah, you're talking brain damage, anything higher than that.
Exactly right. So it is not something to fool with, but at the orders of Dr. Fauci. When he keeps calling senators like Rand Paul and others morons, no, he's the moron. When he keeps calling them liars, no, he's the liar. Sooner or later, he's going to be taken into custody, and he is going to get his just desserts. It's only a matter of time.
You do think they'll take him into custody?
Sooner or later, something will happen in this country. He cannot continue to injure and kill this many people and say, I am science. No, sir, you are anti-science.
But they don't even lock up the scientists that say it's okay when it's not okay. So what makes you think they're going to lock him up?
Well, who is they? Who is they?
The ones he's in cahoots with.
Are we going to have a collapse of civil society here? I said earlier that I think it is possible.
Yeah.
Let me repeat it again because I don't want it to be twisted.
Good.
No, I'm not. I'm not for an uprising. I'm not for a rebellion. I'm not for an insurrection. I'm for an election, an honest election. However, if you begin violating people's civil rights and you give them no recourse in the courts or in the elections, then unfortunately it's like a powder keg. People are very angry in this country. They're very upset. This administration has tried to take away people's guns. That will not happen. So now they're trying to limit access to ammunition. Too late. What will Americans choose? I'm almost 70 years old. I'm not sure I'll be here to see this, but there is a calamity coming because this is a free country. And you have a right to question the outcome of an election, and you have a right to take a vaccination or not take a vaccination. That's your right. But when the government says you can't question this election or you can't question this vaccination, then you no longer have a nation. And I think people understand that you're going to collapse into a quagmire.
Now, you've been a victim of this multiple times. How do you think the social media platforms change? Because now it's getting worse and worse and worse where you really can't say anything. You can have your parlors.
Extraordinary. You'll love this. Last Friday, I spoke at a rally for a terrific guy, Martin Hyde, who's running for Congress in Sarasota. He's running against a crook named Vern Buchanan. Vern Buchanan is a member of Congress, has gotten huge multi-million-dollar personal loans from foreign governments. He took a $1.4 million PPP loan, and he took the money and went out and bought himself a $1.4 million yacht. You know where Mr. Buchanan belongs? Not the house, the big house. He's also opposed to the Second Amendment, voted to create the January 6th Inquisition. So this fellow Martin Hyde, who's a great guy, is challenging Congressman Vern Buchanan. By the way, Donald Trump has endorsed Vern Buchanan. You want to contact him at Mar-a-Lago, you might want to ask him why. So I attended a rally for Martin Hyde, and a guy named, I think it's Mark Urbanski, took a picture of he and I together, put it up on his Facebook page, and it says, "Here is my picture with Roger." That's all it says. Not even my last name. Banned on Facebook.
Say how long?
4 hours. Banned.
It's pretty quick.
So what that means is they're using facial recognition technology. here's the good news. Do you think it's hard to shut Facebook down? Do you think it's hard to shut Facebook? Any of these? Do you think that there are not hackers far brilliant than me? I know I barely can run my cell phone. You don't think these things can't be shut down easily by the government or by others? I believe they can.
They can. I think that they can if they wanted to. I think the government could. I think that the hackers could fuck it up. Shut it down now. I don't think so. I think they're too powerful.
People who are far more technically adept than I say it's child's play. In fact, they got shut down a couple weeks ago just to say, hey, here's what we can do so that you get it.
Oh, yeah, they did do that.
Social media is a cancer. It really is. It really is a cancer. So here we are again. This is, I guess, the most important thing. As you know, I went down 2 Fridays ago to fulfill my legal obligations under a subpoena from the House January 6th Inquisition, a committee made up of 7 Democrats and 2 Trump-hating Republicans.
Okay,
so,
now, Roger,
illegally constituted.
Sorry to interrupt you, but can you explain, because we were going to do this and then, you got sick and fucked up. So now explain what led you to have to go to do this.
I got a subpoena from this committee, from Nancy, Nancy Speaker. By the way, I know pills and booze together when I see it, don't you?
Yes, I do.
So she appointed a committee of 7 Democrats and 2 Trump-hating Republicans. Your committee's illegal.
What makes that illegal?
How could you have a balanced committee? The chairman, a black gentleman from Mississippi, who's already filed a civil suit against Donald Trump, therefore proving that he's not an unbiased chairman. He needs to shut the fuck up. But he sent me a subpoena, and by law, I could either ignore the subpoena, which case I'd be in violation like dumb Steve Bannon, or I could go before the committee and assert my Fifth Amendment rights. So I went and I asserted my Fifth Amendment rights. It was great because Adam Schiff, the ghoul, was there. You can see what
your best friend. It's your best friend.
Pedo. He's a pedophile. Look at him.
It's your buddy. You love him. You tell me how much you like him all the time.
Yeah, he's a great guy. Things are going to work out really well for him. Watch. In any event, they were respectful. I was respectful. I told them 58 times that I assert my Fifth Amendment right not to answer your stupid question. And I left. And that would be my advice to anybody who gets a subpoena. You should fulfill your legal obligation to answer the subpoena. You can choose to answer the questions, or you can assert your Fifth Amendment right. Ignoring them because you want to have your name in the headline, I don't know. For something tells me Steve Bannon will not do well in the D.C. jail. Just, I don't know. It's an instinct. Call it a feeling, But that's what I did. Now, yesterday, a couple of the guys who were evidently in the security detail that attended me on January 5th as volunteers, who were provided by the organization whose perfectly legal event I spoke at, whose legally permitted event I spoke at, were arrested in connections with illegal activities on the January 6th. So the fact that they guarded me on the 5th proves what? Let's get this right. Proves what? Nothing. That's called guilt by association. Yet you have a woman on CNN, Jennifer Rogers, you can hear a lot about her, saying, well, Stone has done it again. This time he has committed a crime that the president can't sentence before. No, Jennifer, you just bought yourself a $25 million lawsuit. I will sue any journalist who wants to say that I knew in advance or responsible for or was involved in any way in the illegal actions of January 6th. A guy named Bill Palmer in California has said it. See you in court, Bill. Anyone, step right up. Let me get my piece because I need to get some of this money back.
Why are they so stuck on this January 6th thing?
Because it's all they have. It's fear over coronavirus. It was January 6th. Were they going to run on their stellar record on energy cases?
And this relates back, right? Because it's
by the way, we can do this another way. Adam Schiff, you're a big tough guy. Waive your sovereign, your congressional immunity. Waive and accuse me of something. I challenge you. I dare you. You won't gutless because you're a pencil-necked, gutless geek. You like to hide behind your congressional immunity. You're the one who actually colluded with the Russians. You said, let me quote it exactly, you've seen more than substantial evidence of Russian collusion. So, bug eyes, produce it. Where is it? Let's see it. Adam Schiff is the worst excuse for a human being I've ever met. He is a pathological liar, a huckster, a con man, and soon he will not be a member of Congress. Stay tuned.
Now, I don't know much about him other than he's your best friend. But other than that, I don't understand. And when we're talking about it, it was called Stop the Steal rally by Trump, where this all happened.
Well,
and then there was 11 oath makers.
Several different things. On January 5th, there were two permitted rallies. One's at the Supreme Court, and one at Freedom Plaza. I spoke at both of them. How interesting that my speech, which I myself posted on my YouTube page, has suddenly been taken down by YouTube. I have nothing to hide. Where's my speech? I put it there for everybody to see. I didn't call for lawlessness or ill activity or violence. But why have they chosen to take that down? Because it proves my point. There was supposed to be a rally. There was a rally on the Ellipse on the 6th. I was not there. People from that rally marched to the Capitol. I was not among the marchers. There was a grouping of people outside the Capitol, from whence some then broke into the Capitol. I wasn't there either. So I was in my hotel room or on my hotel grounds all of January 6th. It's not possible to be two places at the same time. So let me say this again, because the people who watch CNN, they're kind of mentally slow. MSNBC, you got to talk slow so they get it. Any claim, insinuation, or implication, or accusation that I knew about or was involved in any way in any illegal activity, any place in the District of Columbia on January 6th is chronologically false. And anyone who says otherwise will get themselves a defamation lawsuit. End of story.
And this is what this is all about.
That's what it's all about.
So you have to go to a
Why?
fucking...
Because they're afraid that I will beat them in the next election, just like I beat them in their past elections. It's over for the Democratic Party. They know it. They can't win an election unless they can steal it. We're not going to allow them to steal the next one.
And now when they say they charged 11 Oath Keepers,
yes.
What do they mean they charged 11
Well, I haven't read the indictment. I believe they are charged with sedition.
Seditious conspiracy. I was going to ask you, what the hell is...
Just to be very clear.
I've never even heard of
Just to be very clear.
Yes.
The FBI told Reuters, the news agency, that they found no evidence whatsoever that Roger Stone was involved in a conspiracy with others for sedition. There it is. So this woman on CNN, that'll be read to her in court when she gets ready to settle the settlement, because I'm coming after her for $25 million.
As
coming
you should.
After 25. I mean, there it is. And I'll call the reporter at Reuters. I'll call the FBI. If you've got some evidence to the contrary, but none exists. People keep saying, aren't you worried that people can say? No, I'm really not, because there's nothing to say. Wasn't there, don't know anything. Let's go for those polygraph tests. I passed 3 of them last time. Anybody wants to accuse me, be prepared to take another one. It's all bullshit. It's all they have. What's Joe Biden going to talk about? Gas prices?
Yeah.
What are the great accomplishments that he's going to talk about?
It's just amazing that they're so after you. You know, they're. It's almost as if they're after you more than Trump.
Well, I could be the second most hated person in the country.
I mean,
but let me say this because people need to know this.
Yeah,
Number one, you can get your very top-notch Roger Stone swag at rogerstonestore.com. Your Roger Stone Did Nothing hats. Your Roger Stone Did Nothing Wrong muscle tees. Your Roger Stone Did Nothing Wrong t-shirts. Your Roger Stone Did Nothing Wrong crop tops for the ladies. Your Roger... You can go
I have some of them. They're good. They're good quality.
You can go to stonecoldtruth.com. In the store, you can get your Roger Stone Did Nothing Wrong coffee mugs. You can get your Roger Stones as a genuine Roger Stone, an exact historical duplicate of the very stone that little David used to take down the Goliath, signed personally by Roger Stone. Again, go to stonecoldtruth.com in the store. You can get your signed pardon, the pardon that President Trump issued me. It's another great thing. There's a dimwit named Philip Bump at the Washington Post.
That's actually his name?
Yeah.
Bump.
Literally the worst piece of shit I've ever met in my entire life. And he writes in his recap.
You sure he's the worst?
That he is the worst.
Wow. For you to say he's the worst, he must be bad.
He is literally human excrement posing as human being.
Okay.
This guy writes yesterday that Stone had his charges commuted. Never writes that I received a full unconditional pardon. Why? Because the judge in my case violated my First, Fifth, and Sixth Amendment rights. Pardon me, Fifth, Fourth, and Fifth and Sixth Amendment rights, and that there was epic corruption by the judge, the jury forewoman, the jurors, and the prosecutors. He doesn't write any of those things. He just says, "Oh, Stone's sentence was commuted." So, Phil Bump, here's one for you, pal. Anyway, you can get all these great products at either stonecoldtruth.com in the store or rogerstonestore.com. And if you're a follower of Mike Lindell, and if you like the MyPillow projects, and I strongly recommend them, I like them myself, go to MyPillow and use promo code STONE. Promo code STONE.
And we'll have all this in the description. And if they buy the book off your site, you'll sign it, right?
That's true. So if you buy the book at stonecoldtruth.com in the store, you get a personally signed copy of the book.
And if they put in the message, Glenn, you'll write to Glenn from Roger.
Absolutely. I will personalize it.
That's cool.
You know, look, I would love to be out of the business of having to sell these products and have to constantly push for support, but I have no choice. I had 17 individual civil lawsuits filed against my wife and I.
More importantly, how is she feeling? How is she feeling?
She's doing amazingly well. She has survived cancer. She has beaten cancer.
Fantastic.
Through ignoring the cancer doctors and through the healing power of Jesus Christ and a little help from our friends.
And you know what? And it's amazing that she did with all the fucking stress going on with you. Stress is a fucking killer.
There's no question. But if you know what the right peptides are, if you know what the right vitamins are, if you know what some of the right perfectly legal medications are, and you're prepared to take them, cancer does not have to be a death sentence. But she's doing amazingly well.
Great.
Where our 17 lawsuits are now down to 6, there's a miscreant named Larry Klayman. He won't be barred very much longer. He's already been suspended in some jurisdictions, and ultimately, I predict, will be disbarred every place. By the way, he'll now file a lawsuit tomorrow just because I said that.
And what's the whole deal with him?
It's very simple. Let me say it. Larry Klayman is an asshole. I have a constitutional right to say that. He says that's defamation. He fools me for defamation. He goes in front of the jury. The jury sees Larry, and they say, that guy's an asshole. The case is over.
Wait a minute.
That's it. I just explained it to you.
But that's true?
I just explained that to you.
So somebody can go and file a lawsuit because somebody calls somebody else an asshole?
It's not a well-written lawsuit. It reads like it was written by a 12-year-old. But because he has a very fragile ego, because no one knows who he is, and because he loses everything he touches, he'd like to be me, but he can't be me. It's like they hate us because they ain't us. But beyond that, I have... the government, the Biden administration, sued me over my 2007 and 2008 taxes. They were very upset because I couldn't make payments anymore after they bankrupted me. Now we're in negotiations to begin making payments again.
But of course, they had a blast that everywhere.
Oh, yeah,
where there's 10 million people in the same situation as you.
Right.
And they make payments.
Right.
You can't afford it, you make payments. And as long as you pay something, they're usually pretty cool.
If they had left me alone and not filed their motion, they would be about ahead by about 12 payments right now. I never missed a payment for over 2.5 years. And these are hefty monthly payments because, as you know, you're required to submit financials on a quarterly basis to show what you have, what you get, what you're getting, where it's going. But to be very clear, the government never claimed that I hid assets. The government never claimed that I underreported income. The government did claim that I used my principal company only to pay myself. That's a fraud upon the court. I paid all my business expenses out of the same corporation for 15 years. I can wheelbarrow as many receipts into court as I want. This particular prosecutor should be sanctioned over that. I'm more hopeful that we will settle. But I have to ask people to go to stonedefensefund.com, stonedefensefund.com. I can't do it alone. I wish I could. But I'm still being sued by mentally deficient lawyers who are fucked up in the head. We won't name any names. And I'm being sued by the Biden Justice Department over my taxes. And I've just moved for dismissal of a lawsuit paid for by George Soros and his group, which is called Lawyers for Civil Rights Under Law, to which I add the word not. It is an organization of lawyers who say that President Trump and I are responsible for the injury of 7 Capitol Hill police officers. It is baseless. It is meritless. It's a press release written by a group of really obnoxious lawyers. And I'll go after every one of them on a Rule 12 because filing a frivolous lawsuit and wasting the court's time, courts don't take a strong view of that.
Between you and Mr. Trump, it's like they're just throwing all the paint at the wall to see what will stick.
One thing you know about me...
Like paint that doesn't make any sense.
One thing you know about me, Tommy, is I'm a fighter. I will never quit.
I know that.
I'll never throw in the towel, but I need people's help. So please go to stonedefensefund.com.
And we will have that also in the description. Now, where does Alex Jones play a role in all of this? Because he's all over the news with you. And still, even though it was,
I was not with Alex Jones on the day of January 6th.
That's what I wanted to
as I have said, and I told Tucker Carlson, I always found it odd that in my hotel room, as soon as President Trump finished speaking on the ellipse and the crowd started to march towards the Capitol, by the way, people were breaking into the Capitol before Trump had even finished his speech. So Trump's speech causing the break-in is disproved right there. I got a call in my hotel room, was answered by one of my friends who was watching the speech with me. I was with 3 pastors and a police officer. That's who I watched the speech with. And in this case, the police officer answered the phone and told me that it was the Secret Service and they were offering to escort me up to the Capitol through the crowds. Now, right? Guys I know in Philly would call that a setup. That's what they would call that. Does that sound like a setup to you? You've been around, Tommy. Does that sound like a setup?
I would go with it, yeah.
Yeah. So I declined to go. First of all, why does the Secret Service care about my being at the...
I don't see that happening.
Right. Well, unfortunately, I now know they also made a similar effort to Alex Jones and to my friend Ali Alexander, and they both took him up on it. But because Jones stopped in the bathroom and he took too long to take a dump...
God forbid the guy goes to the bathroom.
He had to drop a deuce himself. Well, then it turns out that he didn't arrive at the Capitol until the folks who broke in had already broke in. And when he realized that, he jumped up on I don't know if it was a car or a chair with a bullhorn, and he started yelling, "No, pull back. Do not break into the building. This is a peaceful demonstration."
But you don't see that, Roger. You don't see that. The guy gets on a car trying to calm things down.
You don't see that.
You don't see Alex doing that.
Or the Capitol Hill police officers beating this poor woman in the tunnel between the U.S. Senate office building and the Capitol, bludgeoning her, spraying her with mace, beating her with nightsticks. That story's yet to be seen. When I get that video, I'll get it to you, Tommy. People need to see it.
Do it. Yeah, get it to me.
So the only people who died that day were unarmed Donald Trump supporters. And the police officers who died did not die on January 6th, and they did not die from injuries sustained on January 6th.
And you hear none of this.
The 2 women who died were unarmed. They were a threat to no one. Yet their murderers just get a pass. They get an excuse. And you ask me whether we're going to continue as a free society? There you go.
We already know the answer to that.
We shall see.
Now, the new headline, 2 weeks ago, was that you were selling NFT things of Trump to make money. What, you got 10,000 fucking gazillion legal bills. You're getting sued. You're in depositions, medical bills. The fuck? I mean,
this. Thank you, Dr. Fauci. This NFT world is a new phenomenon to me.
Crazy.
Essentially, is what it is when you take a picture of an article and you sell a picture. You can go to stonecoldcollection.com, stonecoldcollection.com, and I have taken a number of my most valuable political memorabilia and put it online. If you want to do something that's cooler or even faster, go to rogerstoneauction.com. You can buy the actual Roger Stone Did Nothing Wrong t-shirt I was wearing when I was arrested.
Can you bid on it?
You can bid on it.
That's kind of,
you can buy very soon you'll be able to buy the actual Beretta that I am photographed in the famous James Bond pose.
You're fucking nuts, man.
You can there are a number of things that Donald Trump signed for me personally that I put up for sale there. So don't miss rogerstoneauction.com.
You're going to have to text me all this.
Yep.
Now, does Mr. Trump know this?
I'm not sure Mr. Trump could understand what an NFT is. He's not terribly technical. I guarantee this, the IRS knows it, and they'll get all their due proceeds. But yeah, it's very sad. Between the stonecoldcollection.com and rogerstoneauction.com, I've had to sell off some of my most valuable and most sentimentally held collection of political memorabilia. But as you point out, cancer is not cheap.
No.
The most effective things my wife did to fight her cancer were not covered by insurance. These lawsuits, 17 individual, baseless, meritless, groundless, harassment, but tremendously sensationalized lawsuits. That's expensive. Where am I going to get my money back? I'm suing CNN and Jennifer Rogers. Her money will soon be mine.
What about Rachel? What's her last name? Meadows?
Rachel Madcow?
Yeah.
What a pig.
I would assume you don't like her very much.
I don't like her. I actually probably could go through the many things she said. I imagine she has defamed me. It's not a bad. Let me make a note of that. I kind of like that.
Well, I bring it up because as I'm reading up everything, I know how they twist words and everything else. So when
some of them are smart and they say could be, may have. People have speculated that. Others are stupid and just accuse you of a crime. Those are the ones I hit first. I don't like, lawfare, but that's what I'm being subjected to. I'll have to take a look at the many times that mentally delinquent piece of crap, whose entire Russian collusion hoax disappeared in thin air, and she's still too dumb to admit it.
When you come back in February, you'll have that number.
I'll have that number. By then, the lawsuit will be fired.
Well, good. Well, then we'll have even more to talk about.
Maybe we'll have to let you to bring the cameras in to see the actual lawsuit. That'd be good.
That would be absolutely awesome. So you got through that. So now we're in this situation. Then you get to go on Tucker Carlson. He's number one right now, I think. Who's bigger than him?
No one. He's the number one, I think, most influential broadcaster.
And you did the the Fox? What's the thing?
I did Fox Nation,
and then they put you on Fox News.
They also put me on the Fox network. Those got very, very high ratings.
Yeah, we watched.
Look, I think there's the best way to wrap this up. I've experienced 4 miracles in my life. Miracle 1, by the grace of God, and only through the intercession of Jesus Christ, my sentence to go to a COVID-19 infested prison in Georgia where no CDC regulations were being followed, where the government insisted there were no COVID cases, where we subsequently learned there were 200 known cases. The first miracle was when the president commuted my sentence. The second miracle that Philip Dump at the Washington Post doesn't write about is my unlimited pardon just before Christmas of last year. Miracle number 3, January 6th, I came outside the hotel. I looked around. I went back in the hotel and I never left. period, end of story. But the greatest miracle of them all, my wife is cancer-free.
I'm so happy to hear that.
That is only through the healing power of Jesus Christ and from some very wise friends who guided me away from chemotherapy and radiation and to completely legitimate medical treatments which can defeat cancer. And it is only because that she is alive today. So I thank Jesus Christ, but I also believe that I was saved for a purpose, that I'm here for a reason, that there's something that Christ wants me to do. I think it is to do something to save this country, to save this nation.
Well, somebody needs to do something.
Well, the Bible tells us that we're up against principalities. It's not men we're fighting, it's principalities. It's evil principalities.
Which would be the worst type of war to fight, in my opinion.
As you know, the great evangelist Kim Clement said, "The country we saved by a simple stone. Remember that name."
The stone.
So,
I got to ask you about Tucker before you cut it out. So tell me how that was. Because I like him. At first, he had to break in a little bit in his spot. And then maybe about a year ago, I saw him really start to change where he was asking the questions that everybody once asked that the others don't.
Well, Tucker, of course, has been a friend of mine for 30 years.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Tucker and his brother, Buckley Carlson, great guys, great people. And he's a cynic. He gets it. He sees the big picture. I remember to the time before Trump's election when he was telling me, I think this country's in deep trouble and we might be finished. And I said, "You're such a pessimist." He said, "No, you'll see." Well, he's turned out to be right. We are on the precipice, but he is a great man. There is no one happier about my wife being cancer-free than Tucker Carlson. And as far as the future is concerned, the stone has been released. The giant will fall. Thank you.
We will let it at that, and I will see you in February, and we'll do our usual long one. How about that?